Right then, what's going on? Welcome back to XG File. Stephen Howson, Ronaldo. All right?
Yes, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm all right. You're a bit giddy. What's going on?
I'm not.
I've just seen some energy and dancing from you that I've never seen as we've started a show, ever.
Do you know what it was? It's probably me G'ing myself up for not a very happy chat. And also that in combination with caffeine might do that to you as well. Obviously, you're not familiar with that anymore. So,
well, no, I'm still having caffeine.
So,
also, caffeine doesn't give you energy; it removes the feeling of tiredness. So there's the common misconception there. Although if you have it with sugar, that will elevate you. Just as an FYI.
And that's people usually do have it with sugar, so it's probably is the effect. Yeah. But as United fans though, have we got much to be giddy about at the moment?
No, not at all. Next question.
Yeah, because it's been a bit of a quiet 24, 48 hours, really, innit? You could talk about a number of things that are upsetting you. How United are playing, the possibility of losing a academy graduate, which United fans historically don't like. That's just kind of rooted into the ethos of the club. And then you've also got a January transfer window where we haven't signed anyone yet, and it feels like it will be very doom and gloom if we don't add to this squad the way that we're playing. And then more drama comes out, and then you've got more leaks, as you can probably see behind us, which is a bit of a bust up and carnage in the dressing room after the game, which probably goes on quite a lot. But I think this one...
I've just come fresh from the barbers. Literally saw this, I was scrolling through in the chair and saw it. And Barber says to us, like, probably needed a bit of that. And I'm like, yeah, they probably did need a bit of that. And he goes, do you think the game's changed a little bit though? Or, like, I said, no, like, managers can still tear strips off players. At the top level especially, like, you can still tear strips off players, not a problem. If someone's doing that to your under 18s, your under 16s, something like that, maybe he's got something going on at home he needs to think about. But if you can't do that at the top level, I'm sorry, you can. We're talking about elite anything. There's still expectations, and if expectations aren't being met, people get harsh words. So supposedly tables have been flipped, chairs have been booted, like
the TV inside has been damaged. So
I fucking love it, mate. I'm actually here for it. Yeah, good. Fucking let them know.
Do you think there's any correlation between the TV in the changing room, the big flat screen TV in the changing room being damaged, and then INEOS then cutting the salary of Brian Robson, etc.? To pay for it.
No. Okay. No, I think all of these cuts, they've been coming since they took over.
Okay.
And I genuinely think people are like, oh, they're cutting this, they're cutting that, they're cutting the other. Read between the lines, lads. We are skint. That's it. We've paid over $1 billion in interest and debt repayments and refinancing costs and this, that, and the other. We are skinty poos. If you want us to sign anyone, we got to start cutting costs. Simple as that. The club is now being judged on these profit and sustainability regulations that didn't exist 20 years ago, right? And because of that, you can't just buy your way out of this problem no more. You have to balance the books. That's the fucking rules. So if you want to balance the books, yeah, cool. Would we like to support the charities and the foundations? I'm sure we would, right? Would we like to give Brian Robson just like this mega pension to just hang out and go and like meet fans around the world? I am sure we would. Same with Fergie. I am sure we would. But the cold hard fact of this is a football team first. Everything that we do has to be channeled into that football team first. That's it. There's no if buts, no annex, no brackets. That's it. Everything that this football club exists to do should be focused on making that football team the best it can be.
100%. But if you take it back to this changing room bust up situation, it obviously does happen at professional football level with that much scrutiny, that much basically leaning on victories, losses, bonuses. Obviously Amorim getting upset because it's his livelihood, it's actually his job, that's on the line week in, week out. But obviously with the modern game and players being a little bit more sensitive now, that's the main issue, because one problem that's been at United for a long time since Sir Alex is player power. And if a manager kicks off at you, probably rightfully so, because they've been putting in awful performances against teams that they should be beating and should be performing better against.
Yeah, I don't know if we definitely should be beating Brighton in the current states. True, but we definitely should be getting more than one shot on target.
Yeah, but you get the vibe that they'll be like, us concerned, because we've seen it time and time again recently, us fans, is are those players then going to can it? It'll be like, oh, he's kicked off at me.
In a way,
be a little bit of a whimper, and then this is what annoys me, because
what has to happen is INEOS have to just back Amorim to the hilt. So if he goes in and he goes, I've just fucking launched the chair at the telly, and I've told, because apparently like the clip that I saw, and by the way, yes, it did come from a questionable source, but the Athletic have backed it up, so I'm taking that as how it happened.
Is that a problem though? The fact that someone's come out with it before the likes of Athletic and known exactly what's happened within the changing room Manchester United.
But let's be honest,
crazy.
This happens all the fucking time. It happens
too much though. That needs to be packed in, that.
Yeah.
The league shit.
Anyway, I hope what happens is he's gone in, he's ripped a strip off every single one of them, right? And the ones now who react badly to that, because some will react all right to that. Some will go hold their hands up and say, do you know what? Fair play. That wasn't good enough. I got to do better. And that's the characters that you want. Now, I think there is some characters in this squad. I think there's some people that you can rip a fucking strip off. Like, you telling me Roy Keane didn't get a strip ripped off him? Brian Clough punched him at one fucking point, right? How did he react? That's what the most important question is. You know, how did he react to that? Well, he fucking got on with it. There'll be players who react badly to this and then fuck them all the way off. And there'll be players who go, nah, he's right. And that's how it fucking should be. And they're the players that you keep. And the more that you bin those shitbags, and the more that you reinforce the ones. So there'd have been one player that stood up and I don't know, this isn't me, just me literally saying, factually, the manager would have done that. You've been in changing rooms, you know exactly how it fucking goes. Manager comes in, throws a load of fucking shit around, calls you all twats, and leaves. There's always one guy that's going to stand up and either reinforce it or whatever, innit? Who that person is, because I think there'll have been someone, will have backed up, he's fucking right, you know, that wasn't fucking good enough.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a one-way thing. You know what the players like at that level, the egos that they do have, and how defensive players can be with their ego. It would have been a bust-up, because Amorim would have rightfully scolded all the players for how they performed, and then a couple of them would have given back chat, a couple of them would have like argued back. There would have been a little bit of a back and forth, which is still, it can be healthy in the right instance.
It's not like a primary school situation, is it, where a teacher talks to them and everyone just sits there in silence. No, these are professionals relatively at the top of their game. Yeah. No, they're going to give it back.
100%.
We've got into it in a changing room before, haven't we?
Yeah. For me, I agree with what Steve said. The backing has to go towards Amorim. You brought him in for the brilliance that he's shown at Sporting Lisbon. You have to back him in the transfer window, and you have to back him against these players that don't have the character and the mentality to perform week in, week out, and actually show a little bit of pride for the shirt. Because too often in recent times, I feel like the players have had a little bit too much power over the managers, and that's how we've seen so many managers fail here. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how it is. And I think INEOS for me though, have shown that they look like they will be more likely to side with a manager rather than the big players and big personalities.
The truth of the matter is, the Glazers didn't run the club. The Glazers picked a CEO and then fucked off on holiday and let him run the club and then
let him be
give
the
it a yes or no
on
on whatever money they needed to spend. INEOS look like they're actually getting their hands dirty. They actually look like they give a fuck. And this is their first manager. We will find everything out about them in how they deal with this situation with Amorim. So yes, Amorim's had to get to the point where he's tore a strip off the players. It was coming.
Yeah.
We're in the bottom half of the fucking table. It's the least I expect. Yo, I'm hoping like, you're not even getting fucking dinner today, lads. We are doing a 4-hour fucking session right the way through until you get this, whatever this is, right. Whatever it is that he's working on. It might be defending crosses. It might be transition to attack. It might be pressing. Whatever it is, we're fucking staying out here through the wind, the rain, and we'll turn the fucking lights on if we have to, and you will get it right, or you're not going home. And the first player that rolls his eyes, cool, take a fucking seat. You want to fucking gob off as well? Let's go. Harry Amash, you're in. He can fuck off. Boom. That's how it needs to be. And you'll find the players that are going to stand alongside you and go for it. And if you don't, fuck them all off. There might
come a point where you just got to start playing some academy lads, I swear, you know.
And then come out and press conference and say, why is he not playing? Because he's a turd. That's why he's not fucking playing.
But the thing is, I reckon some managers have wanted to say that, but it's almost like you can't say that. Do you know what I mean?
You can't. Well,
you can't be like, oh.
You've got to protect. Like, people talk about loving the sort of like refreshing sort of honesty. They're never honest. There's no manager ever been completely honest, including Fergie in a press conference. There's a game being played in every single time that someone hits record on a camera, right? Because otherwise they'd have come out and said some absolute carnage. Because you've heard stuff, I've heard stuff. You'll hear stuff from both players and managers that they'll never say, well, there's a camera on. But you know the truth. Like all of these fucking dudes. David Beckham's probably the greatest example, right? You've never heard him slag anyone off. There's no fucking way he's not got hard opinions on everyone.
100%.
Like I can imagine the shit he'd have been saying about Southgate.
Winners know what winners look like, innit? And I think it bothers them that they can't see him in the United dressing room. Because even one of the reports said that one of the players were in tears. Apparently, I don't know if that was tears out of anger, but any guesses? I want people in the comments to guess. Who do you reckon cried? Who's the most likely person to have
Bruno's
cried
emotional,
in the midfield bus stop?
but I can't see him crying. Who do you think?
I'm going. I know he's my guy, but I'm going. Diogo Dalot is most likely to cry for me
because he's emotional.
Because he's emotional.
It means a lot. I think it means a lot to him. I don't see him. He's been shit. Let's have it right. But I don't think it's through lack of effort. He's just not been good enough, or not quite got the role.
Yeah, everyone knows that I'm a big Dalot guy. I think this season he's dropped well below the level, but. What I will give him respect for is you can't ever accuse Dalot of not being committed. You can't accuse him of not being available. He's very rarely ever injured. He does whatever job that a manager. He's a type of player that I feel like is valuable to a squad. Maybe he's not good enough to start for us if we want to be better. Maybe you can definitely upgrade on him. But I think there's a lot, like intangibly, that's about Dalot, other than sometimes him having a little bit of a low footballing IQ, that a lot of the better players could probably learn from. Do you know what I mean? But because even Bruno's the skipper, he does give a fuck, but there's still parts of him that probably do rub fans and rub players the wrong way. Sometimes he can be a bit of a whinger, can be a little bit over emotional, but sometimes you feel like you'd prefer that than having players that are going through the motions and you don't kind of like have that type of synergy with how they feel to how the fans feel.
If there's a sulker in the changing room, I want to boot him in the head. Like I would rather a player have a go back than just sit there like that.
I'm not bothered. When's China White open?
Yeah. Are you done? Are you finished whinging now? Laters. Like, I would rather a player because they only ever argue back if they care as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you don't get an argument back. It's funny reading some of the comments here. There's a lot of comments. There's so many saying Onana because he messed up. I don't see Onana as being a crier. People saying Garnacho. I can see Garnacho being a bit of a crier, to be fair.
But the thing is, Garnacho barely... But Garnacho barely played like 10, 15 minutes against Brighton, so I don't know if he would have got like...
So like, you don't know if someone's nailed it there. You don't know if the tears are out of frustration.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't imagine fucking crying after a match, to be honest with you. So it's not really something that I can compute with. I can imagine having a fucking fight.
Because the issue is you can shape it in a good way in terms of Amorim laying a marker down and it showing that there's a little bit of aggro in terms of the way that we play it, and so that people are caring. But then you don't want it to be like too much instability where it's chaos. Right, it can be a bit chaotic, because if you have the bust up news and then you take into account some of the stuff that he said after the game as well, you can tell there's a bit of a breaking point in the squad where something huge does need to change. Whether that's someone that needs to go, a couple of players need to go, a couple of players need to come in.
He's obviously dealing with the fucking weight of... We said this the other day, I said it on 5 Things. Yeah. We'll never understand the pressure at Manchester United as a manager. No. I've never seen it as focused on one man as it is at United, in the way that it is. It's insane.
It was like straight away, he had about 90 interviews in the space of 7 days or something like that, and he was like, "Wow!"
Insane. And then look at, we broke Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who is a legend here. Like, he aged visibly in front of, every week he was older. Jose Mourinho came in, even when he came in, he had white hair, didn't he, Jose? But remember that picture of him with the scarf on the pitch? Still looked like a
look vibrant, look fresh.
Shagger. Yeah. And then you get that picture halfway through where his hair's all... Look at him, man. Jose Mourinho's a swordsman, mate. He's absolutely sticking it about. But then you see that picture of him where he looks like he's been dragged out of a fucking bush halfway through and his hair's mad. We do that to everyone. The only one we didn't do that to was Louis, because he was already mental. He's
kind of off kilter anyway, isn't it? Yeah.
But everyone, even Ten Hag said the same shit that Amorim's been saying. Wielded the rod early doors, dropped him, I'm in charge, this is the discipline, this, that and the other, broke him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll never understand the fucking pressure.
Nah.
Yeah. And the same with Fergie. Fergie, from when he arrived in '86 to like 7 years later when we won the first title, that is a guy 20 years older. He went from being like a tracksuit manager to a suit guy. He literally went from being 40 to 60, like that, when he first came. And that was a different... The club was basically a Sunday League team compared to the behemoth and media fucking force of nature that it is now. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the amount of requests that every TV company that broadcasts Premier League has got the right to ask you for a fucking interview for something? Think how many that is across the world.
Because he personally did ask that he wanted to do less interviews, and then everyone's like, well, you can't do that, you're Man United manager. And it's just like the tests come really, really thick and fast when you're the gaffer, and especially when you know that United have been in a lot of turmoil over the past few years, and you know the job's big. But I feel like it still catches managers out when they actually get themselves in the office. It's like
Jose's been at some big clubs and Spurs.
And Amorim, he's not even turned 40 yet as well, you know.
No.
He's still a young man. I don't know, is Johnny Evans older than him? Around the same age? Not far off anyway. Feels like. But nah, it's a big test, and you got to see how United are going to respond, because the games come thick and fast now, so you can't like rest on your laurels too much. You got Rangers on Thursday.
Rangers and Fulham is a nightmare. A couple of games to bounce back with.
And the thing is, Rangers European nights, they can be quite dangerous. Do you know what I mean? So for me, we need to win games. I respect that, but at the same time, I feel like Amorim's got so much leeway for me, because he needs time, he needs investment, and unfortunately, I think we see more and more that the players at this club, man, they're almost like unsavable.
Brian says, name 5 players in the squad that are 100% safe. I read that differently at first. So I was thinking safe as in sound. But actually, it probably means safe as in not getting sold.
Oh, I don't know who's... Obviously, Ahmad's just signed a new contract. Lenny Yoro's come on, a big investment as a young player, so Lenny Yoro will be safe as well.
You say Lenny Yoro's safe, and I think he will be, but he's struggling.
I've already said my take on Lenny Yoro. He's just a turned 19-year-old centre-half that's coming to one of the most attacking quality rich leagues in the world. In a team that's really dysfunctional. Also playing as a wide centre-half, which is completely different. But it's not even just that. Centre-halves have the oldest peak age in football. Very rarely are centre-halves absolutely out of this world, 23 and under. They usually become their best.
Van Dijk was still fucking about in Holland.
I think centre-halves don't peak until around 30 nowadays, because so much about it is like knowing the nuances of the game, experience, knowing your angles, kind of learning a little bit of the dark arts. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like Lenny Yoro needs time to develop and grow with all the talent and the tools that he does have.
Would you put him in the top 5 safe though?
Because he still even looks like, you even see the way he's built. You can tell he's got even a little bit to fill out yet as well.
God,
so it's like
it's someone's going to get him down the gym just doing deadlifts and listening to Rocky tunes, and it'll be sound. I think Agate is safe.
Yeah, you got will be safe. He's had a decent start to the season, and he is still relatively young. He's 23. I would say you can just basically say players that we've bought in it, but I don't know. I don't think we should have. Mainu seems to become less and less safe with the fan base that have slightly began to turn on him a little bit.
Is it the fan base, or is it just knobs online?
I think what happens is, I think what happens is as a young player at United, when you break through, I feel like you get a lot of accolades, probably over the top too fast. And then the expectations rise. So then if you fall below it as an inconsistent young player, there's a little bit of an overreaction sometimes.
Massive.
Obviously, I'm saying that about Mainu. You could say the same, obviously, about Garnacho. But unfortunately, it's United are in such a desperate time where we're trying to like rebuild from top to bottom in the club, whilst also stay afloat by winning games, because we can't just lose games every week at the same time. But then also having to reinvest without money because we're a little bit broke, and then it's almost incentivizing us to sell academy products.
It's a nightmare situation to be in, because you are going to have to flip some.
What's happened there?
Yeah, take it off the questions bit, Jay. Stick it on viewer activity in the middle as well, so we can see them super chats.
Yeah.
I'll just go through some of these. Chris says, this does represent a fundamental shift in Amorim, though. He said early doors he doesn't talk to players post-match to avoid emotional responses. Well, yeah, fair play. That sounds like it was a pretty emotional response. I mean, if you're smashing shit up in the changing room, it probably gets filed under emotional, I imagine. But to be fair,
I think he was simmering though. I think Amorim was simmering though, because he was actually getting more annoyed and more frustrated at United's better performances against the likes of City, Liverpool and Arsenal. So it annoyed him because he almost was like, why are we not playing like this and showing this kind of commitment against the lesser teams?
Because I said this in one of the reviews. Brighton are an archetype of the way City, Liverpool and Arsenal play. Obviously they're not the same quality, but they want to take the ball, they're going to press similar ways. Like, you can draw lines across them 4 teams, can't you? Why was we so bad against Brighton and so... Because we were good against the other 3.
I don't know if it's a lack of... I think it's because you can get away with having like a 5-4-1 block against those teams and like being compact and being rigid and like taking your moments when you break.
But we took the ball. We had good possession in all those games.
Not for them still, but we still was more of a pragmatic type of performance where you can't really get away with doing that at home against Brighton. I know Brighton are a good team, but I think the onus is on United to go and take the game by the scruff of the neck against all the teams outside the top 4.
Agreed, but why weren't we able to do that against Brighton? Because they weren't even good. They were all right on the break, and they had some good moments.
I'm glad you said that. I said the same thing. That's my problem now. Teams like Brighton, as decent as they are, they can come to Old Trafford and United, and Brighton didn't even have to play at their best to beat us.
Like, I've seen
Brighton play a lot better than that.
I've seen them do stuff, and I go, wow, fair fucking play.
Yeah.
Mostly under De Zerbi, I saw a lot of that under De Zerbi, where they would do some sequences of play where I'd just go.
They had a couple of sequences. They had a couple of Barcelona-like sequences on the weekend. I do remember they bopped it a couple of times, but it wasn't like loads. But I did say I thought there was a talent disparity between the forwards for Brighton and our forwards, which is a bit of a problem. Because for me, I don't know how you can spend as much money as United have spent over the past few years, and you come up against so many teams lesser down the table, and it seems like their attacking like quartet is a little bit better than us. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know.
I said all season, didn't I feel like our forward line's West Ham level. It's West Ham level without Rashford. Oh, sorry, it was West Ham level with Rashford, and I haven't even got a Rashford. Like, so what the fuck level is it now? I don't know. Fucking pony is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. So,
Von says, looking like a young lad, Steve. Cheers. Good to see the hard work paying off. I'm running 5k a day at the moment, and I woke up this morning very tired and very stiff. Aching a little bit, feeling my age today. Side note, Ronaldo is a riot on X. Appreciate the chaos you've been causing.
I don't think I'm a riot on them. I think I've been perfectly fine. I don't even argue with people on there or anything.
Where's all the masculinity gone, says Akash, not allowed anymore. Ant says, crying, I'm kicking doors off hinges, wet wipes. Yeah, I agree with that. Red Baron says, not forgetting what Rangers fans did to Manchester. Oh, it's a fucking night out for them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's their biggest.
There'll be fucking millions of them in Manchester.
Because they only get
tomorrow and Thursday.
They rarely get big games in it. They usually get one big game a year against Celtic, where they've been getting battered for the best part of the last 5 years. So when they get an opportunity to play against a Prem side or come to Manchester, they make the most of it, innit?
Yeah. Any more super chats? No. Right, what you guys saying there? Mister says Manu is still quality. He just needs to train with the Kenyan marathon team twice a week and Usain Bolt once a week. I agree with you, sort of. It doesn't really suit his tendencies. Like, I was chatting to Rio about this the other day, about playing in a 2 versus playing in a 3. Playing in a 3 is so forgiving. There's loads of rotations can happen. I'll cover you, don't worry. Yeah, you press him. Like, when
it's still not easy in the middle of the park, but it's definitely easier than a pivot. Jesus, yeah.
When there's just 2 of you, and then it's like, you got fullbacks who are going to drop as well. So you're covering such a vast amount of space. It's got to be really fucking difficult. Like, there was a couple of sequences. It wasn't a Brighton game. It was a couple of weeks ago where I was watching. It was when Casemiro last played. Who did he last play against? Because I was watching Casemiro, because Casemiro loves a press, doesn't he?
I don't think Casemiro's played in a while. So
no, it wasn't. So it was a few.
He last played against Newcastle and we got torn.
Might have been Newcastle, and it was he'd gone high to press someone around like their third line, and because he'd vacated that space, it looked like just an entire ocean of pitch because he just was 25 yards out of position, which is a lot to be out of position, but still, you're thinking, even if you're just 5 yards out, like that's a lot. And in the last 2 weeks, United's defensive line and forward line has been stretched. Like we're not compact in the slightest. Like if the forward line came and dropped 10, 15 metres further deep, then midfield's going to be a little bit tighter in there. And we might be able to like deal with something. But when he's got like 15 metres that way, 15 metres that way to the next line, it's just too much.
That's just defensively. I think Mainu, his best qualities are his like press resistance or his ability to like have these little technical carries of the ball in the final third. I think he's almost got a niche kind of skill set where he's better as like the most advanced of like a staggered midfield three.
I wouldn't mind trying him.
I think if he's
higher and Bruno deeper.
Yes,
exactly. I think Bruno's energy and Bruno's got a good forward play range on him. Like he's got good balls in behind. Like I think he's got a better range of passing than either Ugarte or Mainu if he was played deeper.
There's a reason why Bruno doesn't play that deep, and it's the same reason why the likes of KDB don't play that deep. It's because these types of players are risk takers, and
I've seen him do it.
You need higher ball retention in them areas. For example, Bruno has been great for a couple games, and then against Brighton, he was pissing me off the first half. I thought. Did you not feel like Bruno just launched it every time he got it in the first half? Every time he got it, he was trying to won the ball. Something that Amorim has been trying to coach out of him. And another thing that I would actually bring up, I don't know if you know about it, but he did mention it after the game. And Amorim said that he was fuming because in the last 20 minutes of the game, players started just doing their own thing. He said that players started to do their own thing, start taking up positions that aren't in like the game plan or the system or whatever, which I think is a concern. That's a massively bad sign. And I wonder what that triggered him, because he seemed to insinuate that he's been here for a little bit now, and you know what players are like, getting poor results playing the formation or playing the system. It's the last 20 minutes of the game and they've just gone, oh fuck it, and just started doing their own thing and lost kind of belief in what they were doing. I think if that's the case, that's alarm bells for me.
But is that why he's fucking smashed up the changing room afterwards?
Maybe, but
that would trigger you, wouldn't it? If that's what we've gone and done, you gone, no, I had a fucking plan. You lot didn't stick to the plan. Yeah, smash the gaff up. I'm here for it. Like, I don't know. For it. Fuck them.
That's why. If that's the case, Amorim just needs. Literally, I reckon he needs 2 players this window, and he might need 6 in the summer. Honestly, and that's no lie.
We can't get to the end of this. I can't believe it's the 21st today. I can't believe we've got to the 21st of January with a new manager that's got a really specific system that we haven't got players that fit in it, and we haven't bought anyone for him. If that doesn't tell you how dire the finances at United is, and
how bad a decision it was to keep tonight, I'm going to say it. Do you know what I mean?
We've touched on the fucking idea here that, or we haven't touched on the idea here that Rashford's going to have been put on a fucking shelf for 2 months. Then we're not going to be able to sell him either because of lack of interest or lack of people that fancy paying his wages or whatever it is. That you might have to bring him back in from the fucking cold. Like, no one comes out of that looking good.
So, yeah, all right. So what's happened with the Rashford situation is just there's no takers anymore. Because I think it's really weird for him it just looks like a bit of a mess to me. And then you've got this thing, which is a massive debate, which we can go on to now, is would you sell Garnacho or not? Because it's looking like United could get 60, 65 million for him. That will have some huge residual PSR effects on what United can spend.
Yeah, you can't triple it or something.
I've heard it's more than that. I think it's worth... I think someone said to me that 65 million for Garnacho will be worth 250 million in terms of spend.
I don't understand how that works out.
I don't know how it works out.
Yeah, I probably would, to be honest.
But it's like... But then people are like, he's worth more than that. We paid 55 to 60 million for Mason Mount. We got fleeced by Chelsea.
Yeah, United are shy at
so it's like... Can United
I
not?
don't think he suits the system. I do have massive question marks about his decision making. I think he's an exciting player, but I think I think actually he's improved under Amorim. I think his decision making has gotten better under Amorim. But if he ain't going to be right for the system, and you can sign 2 or 3 players on the back of selling him, I think we're in people want their cake and we eat it. I don't think we're in a situation where we can just do what we want. I think you're going to have to play the game, and if the playing the game means that you got to do that.
Some people are saying that United should just go gun ho, just say F it, and just go let's buy 10, 11 players. If we get a transfer ban, it'll just be one window anyway.
Is that the only consequences though? Because there's point reduction consequences, isn't there?
Possibly as well. Because I think that's what people said Chelsea did in the past, where they knew they'd get a ban, but they just thought, so let's hoard players now, because we'll get banned anyway. But
and Nottingham Forest sort of did the same thing as well. They did. Didn't they send 15, 16 in one window a couple of years ago, and just went fucking.
I don't know if United can have that type of turnover, because everyone wonders why Chelsea can spend $1 billion in the last couple of seasons and still be in the green in PSR, and it's because they have sold so many academy players for pure
Love
profit.
United Glazer here says, Stephen back in INEOS, lol. Can you explain what you mean by that? Is it because I'm just not calling him Jim Glazer and he's just the fucking bad as all that? Is that it? Is that means that I'm backing him in every decision he makes now? Shut up, you fucking helmet.
Nah. Nah.
Are we getting Dorgu?
Looks like it. It looks like it, but then for me, with how tight our funds are, if we're getting Dorgu, which will probably cost 25 million, is what's being touted, that surely means United will have to sell someone. You've got Casemiro. This is another thing. Casemiro is on the most wages. He's on the highest wages at the club right now, and he doesn't play. We're paying Casemiro now.
That's what it feels like.
300,000.
Him and Rashford's decisions was kind of let's get rid of them off the wages, almost. Because the way that both of them have been iced is kind of mad, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't need it on both sides, Jay.
Suraj says, Mourinho was let go for this? Is Amorim safe? Let go for what? For booting off like this? I don't think he was. He was let go because where we were in the league after the expectations, but also the absolutely cowardly performance that we put in at Anfield. There was back-to-back shocking performances. And you got to think as well, is that team that Mourinho had, look at the forwards in that team and look at the absolute fucking dross that we're dealing with now. That team was so much better than this team.
It's mad.
Alexis Sanchez is only behind Ahmad in this fucking team, by the way. And it was an absolute flop.
United do a really good job at spending a ton of money and getting worse somehow. I don't know, from a personnel standpoint. I'm not sure how we do it. It makes you think, are these players actually as bad as they look for us, or is it just the graveyard vibes of Manchester United?
It could be. Because
I'm back to the Garnacho thing. I'd sell for 65 million. I know that's not a popular opinion. Fans do have an attachment to academy players. But
I need to answer that question.
But for me, I think United actually need that for what we're going to, because I don't think Garnacho moves the needle for us that much in the next couple seasons.
No,
and I don't think
signings do.
Yeah, and signings might do. And I actually don't think he has that world-class ceiling that a lot of people would like to think he does have, to me.
PH says Scott's a better striker than Hojlund. He's not, right? He just isn't. Let me explain what the situation was with Scott. He was coming on and scoring really important goals at the end of games as an extra forward with no other responsibilities. You was not asking him to hold the ball up against fresh defenders in the first minute. You was asking him to come in whilst another player has taken a defender away and him just coming and crashing the box, which he was phenomenal at, right? Which is still a skill to do, but that's what he was doing. If you played him up front and said, lead the line, win your duels, hold the ball up, link play, get in the box, make those zigzag runs to get in front of your defender at the front post, you would quickly realise how fucking ridiculous that statement is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. He's just not better than him. Not that I think Hojlund's good, because I think he's absolutely abysmal. But Scott's not better than him as a striker.
Yeah, I know. And you know what's mad? I think, on the Garnacho thing, I do think Garnacho goes to Napoli, and I think he does decently well.
Yeah, and
I think he probably does get numbers.
Dorgu a little bit as well, is that I think that league is such a fucking myth of a league at the moment that I think that you can look like a world beater in that league, and then you can come here and just go, oh. But you could also come here and do well. we're not going to know until we see.
No.
And L there with a super chat says, Manu distracted by the contract or transfer talks? I don't think so.
He does look like he has got a little bit stronger and bulked up, but then he's gone even less athletic than he was. So I don't know if that's an injury thing or just being exposed more by the system that he has to play. But there are a lot of problems at United and very little solutions. And we've not talked about the attackers. Obviously, Hojlund and Xerxes. Hojlund has not improved since he's been here. Garnacho hasn't really improved since his debut too much. I think his best trait is he's got probably the best movement in the team when it comes to movement in behind, being active off the ball. I think he's got good penalty box instincts. I think Garnacho will always be like a threat and a danger in games, but there's a lot of his game that's so unpolished. So it's like if he doesn't get a goal or assist, his performance is quite poor. I think he's one of those players where like he can score or assist in a game, which is valuable, but his performance isn't that great. So it looks worse when he doesn't have the GA. But for me,
I think that's the contrast to Ahmad, where Ahmad can have really good games without contributing. I agree on that.
Yeah, but I don't know, because even Xerxes, I thought Xerxes had a really decent first half against Brighton. I feel like he looked like he tired in the second half. He wasn't really involved much. I think we've lost much.
He gets on the ball and gets forward with it. Like I like that. Yeah. I appreciate players whose first touch is forward at all times. Like I think that's a positive trait, especially in the forward line. Not so much in your defenders. You don't necessarily need that there. But by and large, if people are taking the first touch forward and it's a heavy one into space to move I think you can get momentum on that as a team. You know, it's one of the reasons that I hated Maguire's passing and people would be like, look at his pass completion. It's to the fucking back foot, man. Like so often it was to the back foot, whereas when the ball's played in front of someone and they can take that positive touch and like momentum gets built from shit like that.
I like, I've always loved how Steve's backed the Maguire thing, because I'm not gonna lie to you, if I disagree with Steve, I'll tell him. I've agreed with a lot of the things he's ever said about Maguire, and I thought people have rightfully said he's been played decently well over the last 6 months when he's come in, but I feel like it's been a little bit over-egged. And then there have still been a couple of performances where you still see the reason why we've been annoyed with him at times, where he's a little bit laboured,
a little bit ponderous. He takes like 4 or 5 touches. Like he doesn't really like play on 2, does he? Like he never really does that. He doesn't really break the lines. He's got a decent-ish switch out to him, but you're like, is there a threat with that though, or is it just doing it for the sake of doing it? Yeah. So I like it when people take that forward touch. Back to Xerxes, that's what I was seeing with him. The other night when he came on, he was doing that. He was getting it and going forward, and he did that against Brighton first half. I thought that's what he was doing. Like, was it the Southampton game? I was like, couldn't wait to look at his stats. Then looked at his stats and I was like, I thought he did way more than that. I thought he was way more involved. But I think there's a lot of that. Sometimes it's the entire attitude of the team can be dictated by one person's pass or their first instinct. Like, if every time you get that ball, like some players are a bit of a dynamo, aren't they? Like everything they do is just always positive, always driving you forward. And when you get that momentum going, and I think Xerxes was that, even though his stats weren't that good, and I think he had 1 key pass or something, like his energy and his vibe was, let's get at him.
For me, Xerxes could never be like the out and out starting striker for us if we are gonna. But I think he's a useful squad player, because even when he's been playing poorly, to me, I look at him and I can see ability there. I can see the traits that he does have.
But Newcastle, when he got hooked, he needed hooked.
But it's like
it just wasn't happening for him.
But it's like how him and Hojlund are so contrasting. Though. It's like we thought that was necessarily a good thing, but the issue is they both don't score goals enough, and so it's just like. It's like yin and yang, but like the wrong kind, and you don't know which one to choose. But it depends on the game, really. Because he had 1 good game against Everton where he scored a couple, got the assist to Ahmad. But outside of that, it's a bit of an issue. And on what I will say on the Garnacho thing, everyone has been throwing stats at anyone that says Garnacho will be sold, saying he's got. People you can manipulate data for your narrative anyway. People are saying he's got 13 goals and assists in 18 full 90s or whatever, blah blah. Not accounting for the fact that a whole third of Garnacho's goals and assists came in 1 game against League One Barnsley in the EFL Cup. And that's not to like completely discredit it, but you have to put some context in sometimes when you're talking about these goals and assists. Because when I've looked at his league stats, he's played 20 games in the league, he's got 3 goals and 1 assist. And people are going on like that's irreplaceable numbers. It's not irreplaceable.
There's
numbers.
also no stat for not making the right decision.
Do you know what I mean?
Which, there was so many times when there was a pass on that might have got Hojlund a goal or two more, and he didn't play it. Or there was times when he shot 5 times in a row rather than playing somebody else in, and like there's no stat for that. So yeah, I think if someone comes in with a bid like that, I probably would tune in. But it's got to get spent on the team. We can't lose Rashford and Garnacho and be like, anyway, as you were. Like, that's mental. Like, it's already not good enough. But at least they can do a semi-serviceable job of at least showing up and playing. Whether it's good enough to actually win your games is, well, it's not really debatable, but you can't just not replace them. You can't just be like, hey, we'll sort it in the summer. What?
Yeah.
It's not good enough now.
Do you know what's another one? Because I went to another one in the Hojlund because I went to the Southampton game. So you can obviously see things that you might miss if you watch it on TV. You can argue that we can be you can be harsh on players talking about stuff that they're doing from a technical standpoint where it's like they might just not have that ability to do it or whatever. But there's certain things that you feel like you can control that fans were getting really annoyed at Hojlund for in that game. Every time the ball was played up to Hojlund, literally about 6-7 times in the first half, the defender got there in front of him. And I think that's
shocking.
He's just on his heels, not ready, and it's just centre-half stepping in front of him every single time. And that's what bothered the fans the most, because that's nothing to do with how good you are on the ball. That's just being ready and alert.
I could do with getting a whiteboard and showing you what I mean. There's a coaching tool with Paul McGuinness uses, and it looks like a target. It's a circle with a grid in the centre of it.
Yeah.
And you use it to sort of explain where you want to be receiving the ball. Like if I want to pin and go on then. Let's see if we can make this happen. Thanks, producer Ethan.
Go on.
So what you've got is circle like that, and then just looks like a target. Okay. Now, let's say defenders here. So we'll do the defender as a triangle, right? And you got a circle as your striker. As the ball's played in, if I'm the sort of striker at pin and spin, let's say you're my defender, right? I want to get my arm out. I want to try and play to the open side, yeah? So I want to go there. I don't want to go into here because I'm constricting my own space. I want to try and get the ball, keep you in there, and try and take the ball into the open side there, if possible, right? That's what I'm trying to do. What I see with Hojlund is he allows the defender to get too square behind him. He receives it square. He hasn't got that angle in his hips where he can take a touch with his front foot and knock it round the corner. He ain't got that. He hasn't got the strength in his upper body to just hold someone off and roll them.
How though, when he's like big, 6'3". So I don't get it, because he seems to get bullied quite a lot. Sometimes he can
I think it's the technique. I think it's how square he is.
But then sometimes he's focused too much on the actual hustle and bustle of fighting a defender rather than actually focusing on the technical action that he needs to be doing, which is keeping the ball. I mean that's another thing as well.
What I would be trying to do if I'm him, rather than even being here, I'm going to try and open up and ask for the ball to be played in between us. I'm going to open my body up, so instead of me being back to back with you here, we change on the other side now. I'm going to go this way. I'm still keeping my hips open. So my plane of my body is there, so it's open to it. But I'm going opposite that defender. And that just requires that little bit of last minute movement. It might require double movement. It might require that you take a step across him here, looking like you're trying to receive it on this side, and then explode into the space, turn your body so you can take it in on there.
So you know what I don't get is these.
Do we like this? Should we do more?
These are getting top tier video analyst work, and so I don't know
yeah, and a pub manager on YouTube can explain what you need to fucking do better.
He surely I guarantee that United definitely get Hojlund in probably 1-to-1 saying, look at your game, this is your footage when the ball's come up to you in this game, what can you do differently? 100% they do that and you get that. So I don't know why it doesn't change. Do you know what I mean? Because even going back into there, I know it's a little bit different. This was at a YTS level at Liverpool, but they used to have a huge computer room with these big PCs where you could actually go onto it and log on in your spare time and they'd have like your clips kind of clipped out
and
for
they
you.
get someone to talk
from
you
your video.
through.
You don't even have to talk. You can literally go through it like yourself and just look at all your actions and kind of see where you can do better.
Because there's one thing, you getting to look at your actions. A lot of kids are just going to look at what was my first touch like, or look at my finish. Whereas I think the technical aspects of that, like why, I'd love to sit there with Hojlund and say, why are you getting involved in this hand-to-hand fighting like you're a fucking prime Mark Hughes? Fuck it off. That's not your game. We don't need you to do that. Get your arm out. Get some space in there. Stop trying to challenge in this stuff. Can we dump it? Like he's set the precedent now of that he's going to be someone that, one, you can bully, but two, that he's going to duel. Why don't we come short for the ball and fucking spinning behind you, dickhead?
Do you know what?
Like,
exactly. And you know what's the saddening for everyone? This is the saddening part of this. If you're a player, for Hojlund's sake, right, and he's shown an inability to consistently hold the ball up, he doesn't make smart enough runs, your teammates start to lose a little bit of trust and belief in you.
Do they?
And he won't pass it to you. And that can happen subconsciously, and I think I do see that. For example, in the Southampton game, when Xerxes come on, I feel like players were passing a ball into Xerxes' feet in instances where they wouldn't pass it to Hojlund, just because there isn't that level of trust level. Do you know what I mean?
Says the goal isn't a circle, mate. That's not a goal. That's showing you where you receive in relation to a defender. Yeah. Like the reason that it's drawn like that, the reason why it's drawn in this sort of thing with the thing is
giving him an excuse to draw this now, man.
Yeah. It's basically to show you what your different sort of movements are. Like, you use this as a teaching tool. It's like you might try and do it where you explain how to do a fucking 1-2, and you use someone over here, and it's about drawing attention from being here and then having a run that goes around the outside and playing the ball through. Like, you use the circle with the target in it to explain where your movement is in relation to a defender. It's nothing to do with the goal.
I think when people are doing it, because I've seen Akash K and Ross say it, like, or that they don't pass to him anyway. I think that's become a very, very, very lazy narrative, though. I feel like there's a lot of times the reason why Hojlund doesn't get passed to is because he hasn't shown anything for players to trust him. That's a thing with players. And also, I think his movement sometimes can leave a lot to be desired. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Well, also as well, so much of communication on the pitch isn't verbal. Like, if you've got the ball and you're facing the correct way, let's say you've one-to-one a fullback, right? This is a scenario you find yourself in a lot. You're on a touchline, you've got your touchline on your left, you've got a fullback in front of you. Me as an inside forward or a striker playing off you, I'm going to communicate with you by my movement in relation to you and the other defenders. Yeah, you should have your head up. If I make a run across the back of that fullback, that's enticing you to send a little one in there for me, and then potentially run off me into the space that I've just vacated. That's one sort of thing that you might see from that. I might be tightly marked by a defender. It might be fucking wrapping me up. If I move towards you and then run off in behind, that's movement that you might spot. Or I might try and go further away to come short. Like, the movements I'm making with my body are asking for the ball. I don't need to say, hey, pass me the ball. I don't need to say A in behind. My movement, especially at that elite level, should be telling you the availabilities that I've got. Now, you then it's on you to make the best decision. You might see what I do and then think Ahmad's actually the pass and I can hit Ahmad from here. And I might have just done a little bit of movement that's dragged the defender 5 yards further this way to open up the gap for him. That's fine as well. But I think you're right. He isn't getting the ball. But is he lively enough? Is he asking for it? Or do they know fucking centre-half's got him wrapped up tight, completely locked him down, and he won't win the ball if I give it him? And
unfortunately, I feel like this sort of thing that we're talking about for Rasmus to improve on, he can only improve himself. Like, these stuff like football and IQ and learning movements and that, you can be taught it to an extent, but it's something that you kind of almost have to work out on your own. So I'm hoping
reps a bit as well.
Because at the end of the day, obviously we're signing Dorgu now, who likely to sign him. I'm not sure yet. The issue is with the transfer stuff, United need a significant improvement almost straight away, or something to kind of spark the team with the transfers that we do have. But then we've got an issue of not having enough funds, and then we're having to buy players that are quite raw prospects that might not be ready to have an instant impact straight away. So it's kind of a little bit of a difficult situation, because it seems like United do need to buy these young up-and-coming players and these players that can lift the floor of the team. But United also need ceiling raisers as well. And it feels like that's a lot of money that's going to need to be spent, and it's about where we're going to get that from.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Because
we
my
have
issue
to be
is
looking at free transfers and loans as well, just on a pure PSR level.
Because my issue is Dorgu could come in, and then people are going to expect him to kind of like be this excellent game-changing left wing back straight away, and he probably might not be ready for that. And then have we got the patience to kind of wait on these young players when United are still in a position where we kind of need to win now? Do you know what I mean? That's what worries me.
No, we haven't got the patience for them. Like, so, if he's not prime Paddy Evra by a week on Friday, we're not going to be having it. Because that's this fucking fan base, mate. You can't wait for anyone to mature and come good. It's a fucking pain in the ass with it.
Yeah, but because you can also argue that with Hojlund. No, it's been a season and a half under Hojlund. But I think sometimes that could be a big enough sample size. But at the end of the day, he's still only, 21 still?
Look, I don't want it to be a let's all just diss Hojlund. There's good aspects to his game, of course there is, but there's also some, like, he's not doing the stuff that made him look good in the first season. He's kind of gone a little bit backwards in that sense. Telly's gone off, don't worry about it. Right, I'm going to do some super chats and we'll call it a day. Yeah. I think that's a good timing for us. Rishoff there says, the thing I don't understand is, why can't our highly paid players string a series of passes together? That's been a problem for years. Brighton had more possession than us for most of the second half. I can't answer that. 7-inch Destroyer says, why are Rashford and Casemiro still at the club? Probably because they're on so much cash.
No teams can take them.
Get rid of them, yeah. Tate says, go down. Go. So Glenn says, as an LFC fan, immediately dismiss anything that you're about to say with that opening sentence. Cheers for your super chat, though. I want United and Liverpool to be battling the Prem. I don't. Next one. Tete says, because you can amortise payments across a 5-year contract, buying 3 players for a combined 150 would actually only cost you 30 million that year. Red Baron says, agree with Ronnie. You can tell from game to game the frustration from Amorim has been building. I don't blame him. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it makes sense that you just go absolutely fucking turbo in the dressing room at some point. Because what else are you going to do? You can try being mates with him. You can try putting your arm around him. At the end of the day, you're highly paid professionals at one of the biggest clubs in the fucking world. How's about putting a fucking shift in and looking like you give a fuck? Because too often, this United team hasn't. And you're getting players coming in, like, look, what's Collier's ceiling? I don't think it's starter for Manchester United, week in, week out, play 500 games and retire a legend. I think he's a serviceable player, but he'll probably end up playing at fucking Fulham at some point in his career, right? Which is not bad for him. He's a professional footballer playing Premier League football. But is he the next big thing? I'd be fucking shocked if he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. And
it's another Ryan Tunnicliffe. Like, he's a fucking good pro, but, like, is he going to take us forward?
Yeah. I'm not sure, man. For me, I feel like people have used the whole buzzword or the buzz phrase of open heart surgery that Ragnick said, but it feels like we need more than that. Like, honest to God, I feel like this squad that we have, especially under the Managerial system, is about 6 to 8 signings away from being decent. Yeah,
and it might be, some of the youngsters in the academy might get given a go. They might sink, they might swim, they might be nowhere near it. Ibrahimov, someone like that, maybe you throw him in early doors and you're like, Jesus, kid's got something.
Might have to,
Yeah.
So you've seen Collier come in and do a job. He's got good energy about him. He obviously played simple. I thought he'd come on against Brighton, though, and I don't think I saw him play a single pass forward. But it's one of them, like, I don't know, United need too much, and it feels like we sign a couple of players and then there still seems to be a whole type of profile of player missing after it. That's why I think United need to focus on getting players that kind of
the likes of Wilcox and Barada are doing that complete squad overhaul where they can look and plan what the team's going to look like in the next 2, 3, 4 years, because it requires that. You can't just be getting to a window and being like, right, shiny thing, right, done, sounds in a bit. Like, it can't work like that. You have to go, right, okay, well, we think this player will be at this level, we think this player will be at this level, we think he might not be at this level. You need a contingency in case someone gets injured. What about if this guy doesn't sign his contract? What we're going to do? Like, you've got to what if the fuck out of it. All of our directors and sporting people, they'll be on somewhere in the region of about £1 million a year. Just do your fucking job really well. That's all we want. You got all the resources that you could want, I'm sure. Unless Jim sold them.
Yeah.
Anyway, right. Anyone knows anyone that can fix tellies? Just get yourself down to Old Trafford. No, ours is all right. She's gone off.
Yeah, it's gone off.
But there's probably some bit of work for you there at Old Trafford to go fix a telly.
And also, judging by INEOS, we might have to...
Or donate one.
We have to set up a GoFundMe for the flat screen TV.
Yeah, in fact, yeah. So straight from the horse's mouth, if we don't get a £2 a month for the TV, Amorim's gonna have to borrow my little whiteboard and just draw what he wants.
Probably.
Right, see you in a bit.
No.
Thank you for joining to subscribe and hit the group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it. Then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.